drivers have been having a heck of a time preparing throughout this week for the second race for what has been a throwing championship. The first round seen some throwing action, close qualifying, and some close battles. But today, the drivers will be all set to go full throttle up to 135 plus miles an hour as they go super speedway racing and their Jettas. The question is, which one will come away with the checker flag of the max points at Daytona International Speedway? We're about to find out here live on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida, for round 2 of the Valhalla SimSport Jetta Master Series. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Joe Peak. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Joe, this is a racetrack that can be challenging to drive around on the road course in the first place. But to try and race a Jetta around here in a super speedway race could be even more tricky today.
Yeah, I think it'll come down to a lot of strategy calls out there. Being on the oval it's going to be a completely different beast to the road course. 2.5 miles, of course, here on the oval, and 31 degrees of banking. So as you'd expect, it is indeed just flat out all the way around in these things. No matter who you're street or drafting with, or if you're by yourself. 18 degrees, of course, on the tri-oval. And they are going to be racing for 30 minutes around here. They do just over a minute per lap. So you'll be just shy of 30 laps that they'll be running here today. Now, I don't believe they have any pit stops scheduled, as they did not last week. So really all this comes down to is how you position yourself for those final few laps, Justin.
Absolutely. It could come down in part to teamwork as well as strategy, just how it is for many of the super speedway races here at this facility. Let's talk about how the point standings fare. By the way, after the first race, it was Joshua Gaiman who came away with the victory after he started in 7th at the opening round of the campaign, but scored the max amount of points, 25 total, the top 10 score points in this series. Mark Samagi finished in 2nd in that race, with Gabor Visky in 3rd spot. Ken Yuri, along with Segodi, rounded out your top 5. 25 down to 10 points separate the top 5 in total of 15 point separation. As talked about a little bit, 30 minutes is the distance today. And with the race details, these drivers seen a similar type of setup compared to the first race, so to speak, in terms of the format, Joe.
Indeed. So just like last time, 30 minutes for them to be running around here. They do have a fast repair. That could be important depending on if we get a caution. However, if you find yourself getting damaged, I mean, these cars are already so low powered that if they don't get a caution, you'll lose too much time having to come in and get a repair. So honestly, keeping it clean will still be pretty critical, even though you have that fast repair sitting at your ready. It's an 8-round season, and just a small change. They were supposed to race at Lanier today, but they had some technical issues, so we have obviously switched over to Florida.
Indeed. Now the question's going to be, how will these drivers fare here at the road course? Now the track conditions, before we begin the discussion, 79 degrees is the air temp, 71 degrees is the track temp. Reverse that part in there with the wind at 7 miles an hour to the east. Very high humidity. In sim day, September the 26th, 2020, just past 5 p.m. And this is the bumpy Daytona, don't forget. Meaning, it's not quite as simple as, oh, it's nice and smooth, I can stick it to the bottom. This track is going to make you bounce around a lot, regardless of the track conditions, Joe.
The good news is these cars have a pretty soft suspension, so it's not something that's going to upset the cars too much. Maybe it could cause problems if people are trying to bump draft with each other and get a little shaky, but hopefully shouldn't be too big of an issue. Honestly, what will be interesting to see is if people can find some sort of advantage with maybe a slightly smoother line and get away from the bumps, because it's going to be down to the tiniest little minutia to find speed around here. We're seeing that in qualifying, because honestly, when I was doing practice laps, it was essentially you'd try and keep it glued to that yellow line. I tried even, drifting up and seeing if coming down the hill and what other tricks I could think of for oval racing, and nothing really replaced just taking the shortest line around.
Indeed, and some of these drivers are doing exactly that, trying to take the shortest way around, including using the apron to try and move down to the bottom of the racetrack. The times the 108.3s at the top of the board, the 108.4s at the bottom of the boards, as one driver decides, you know what, I'm going to go down to the apron. So, you mentioned how you would try and play this to try and win this type of a race. You know there's 30 minutes on the clock, but you never know what's going to happen at a track like this where one bad mistake can end up causing a massive incident, Joe. How do you, in turn, attack how you want to plan this race, especially with qualifying already, seeing many of the drivers complete several of their laps here for track position?
That's all going to depend on how aggressive or how timid you are as a driver. So everybody's really going to take it their own way. If it was me, because this car is so stable around here, in normal stock cars, I would probably hang out in the back because I don't feel confident enough trying to work my way up to the front and accidentally cause something. These things, I feel like it'll be a lot easier because the moves will happen a little bit slower. You'll know when someone's coming. You'll be able to see and kind of watch around. Um, because of that, I would say if I was out there, I would try and be up front at all times.
Honestly, that's kind of the way I would handle things, especially with Berg having trouble handling the car in turn 4. Really bobbing around loose on some of those bumps and still trying to save the thing. He is in 11th, by the way, in qualifying on the board. And that was his lead up, by the way, supposed to be to his last lap.
I think he may have just been having some fun there as they weren't finding much speed on the later laps. It did seem like on my first lap, first flying lap, the car tended to be the quickest out there as we have Sabelski on screen. This is his fourth one. And looking through, yeah, he also is a 108.356 was his quickest.
Mm-hmm. That's near identical times, mind you, throughout the entire field. 13 cars in total will be competing today. One driver will be watching along this evening, Alexander Veldman, after disqualification, to keep an eye on the race overall, I believe, this evening from the paddock. But who do you feel could win a race such as this today for valuable points in what is expected to be a tight race overall?
My money would probably go towards someone like Samogi. He's been pretty quick in just about any sort of style of racing they've stuck him in here in this Jetta. So he's qualified in second so far. And like you said, it's incredibly tight through much of the field. I think he's an incredibly smart driver. So I suspect he'll have something up his sleeve and have an idea of how to play this.
So too, as we take a look, Visky, among the drivers recording their last total times, they had 4 total laps, by the way, in qualifying, 10 minutes of solo qualifying on the board. Visky realizing speed not picking up, that was a few 100s off. A couple others, such as Ash Fletcher, only putting up what is considered just his second time on the board, this time by across the stripe. The fastest time, a 108.331. That's a tie for second, by the way. Can he bump it up? A 108.353? No. Ends off the qualifying at the final few moments, Joe.
Yeah, he cut it a little bit too close. I don't think he even had that third lap counted, unfortunately.
Hearing it did not overall, but the question is going to be who will win this second round. Let's take a look at your starting grid to find out how they will fare in terms of how they will line up on the track. This driver started on the outside front row in the first race. He starts on the pole today. It's Gustavo Cianfari alongside with Mark Zonagi, along with Ash Fletcher in third spot. Gavin Boyette starts in fourth with Lucas Jocelyn in the fifth position. Kenyuri starts in P6 today with Visky, Savelski, Kyle Apsey, and Gabor Georgi rounding out your top 10 positions, Joe.
Christian Berg put it into 11th. To his outside, it'll be Benz Jurak. We've got Andrew Apsey in 13th. And as we mentioned, Veldman, we don't believe will be taking part in this race, as I think he is adminning.
Yes, indeed. We'll see how things fare out for today's race with the 13 drivers all set to take to the racetrack today. Last of the cars have now made their way towards the grid about 50 seconds before they will roll off from the pit lane this evening. So once again, 30 minutes are on the clock today at this 2.5-mile super speedway. More than 200 virtual fans up in those stands today. Your keys to victory overall today, Joe, to be the driver who takes the checkered flag when that crowd goes wild with the ambient sounds.
It'll all come down to placement of your car, when and where you make your moves. Even more so than what we see in traditional super speedway racing with stock cars. Just because there's such a lack of speed and lack of power in these things, they're so much more stable. It really is essentially all down to your strategy. It's going to be kind of throw a matter of skill out the window and put the brain to the forefront.
All the drivers just about set to go. By the way, a little bit of a paint scheme tweak compared to the last round. A bit more of a white-looking hood, or roof rather, on the top end of that Jetta for Kinetic Racing. And when you think back to the Jetta RX Cherry Cup, some of these drivers seen a lot of experience that are racing these Jettas on the dirt. You have to give credit to those George Racing Team drivers. They have the biggest contingency of drivers today, Joe, that could be paramount for a track like this.
Absolutely. They've shown up in bulk since we started covering the Valhalla Sim Sport guys and the races, the series that they've put on. This is the second one that we've covered. And I have to admit, it's been pretty entertaining, what they've been putting on. A lot of people I hear tend to slag on slower cars and slower series, but if you ask me, it doesn't matter how fast the car is, it's how good the racing is. And the racing in these Jettas with these drivers has been top notch.
Indeed, it has been. The question's going to be which driver got the top notch on the scoreboard by the end of the evening. Still about 1/3 of a pace lap to go, where it'll be Cianfari and Samagi in control of the field for the respective organizations. That Fletcher and Boyette in row 2, Jocelyn and Kanyuri in row number 3. 13 drivers ready to attack the high banks of Daytona. They roll towards the final straightaway. The second round of the Jetta Masters Series about to get underway. All the drivers backing up massively for the pace truck. Pace truck is off. Green flag waits up on the stand. Away we go. We're underway from Daytona.
It's going to take a little bit to get up to speed here, although they already are over 100+ miles an hour. So they are not going slow. It might look a little bit tepid compared to what we're used to here at Daytona, but if you were in that car, it would certainly feel fast. And this is what's interesting. They're already getting single file. There's nobody really interested in trying to go too wide, except looks like up on the high side, I think that's Kenyeri who's making a move.
Yes, indeed. And here's one of the things when it comes to super speedway racing. Normally, where you see normal cars, you would see the top line be faster down the straights. The bottom line is quicker on iRacing in the corners. Looks like the George Racing Team machines are saying, you know what? We're going to take this speed and just take it up to the top line. Not going to be able to get up to the lead car, however, for turn 3.
Already 3 wide back there for 4th place. And this is getting very dicey early. I guess one thing we didn't take into account, we don't know how many of these drivers have experience doing super speedway racing on the ovals. So that also plays a big part in this style of racing. Just your experience, and already we're getting door banging up at the very front of the field.
That was close for the first lap of the race. It went to Kenyuri at the stripe. Estimated 25 laps currently on the board. A minute in. Now the question's going to be, as they door bang even more so, how will these cars handle with this? Crash in the middle of the field. Up in the air goes several cars. No caution as 2 cars barrel rolling, 1 car in the grass.
I suppose it looks like they might not have cautions turned on, so this is really going to be a game of safety then. You don't want to get yourself in a position where that sort of stuff can happen, because as soon as you do that, you are out of the running for the victory.
Crazy start to this one. It's now Fletcher and Samagi battling for the lead. I was about to ask, do you think the aerodynamics are going to play a factor normally like you'd see at a super speedway race? Because I'm pretty sure half the cars in the field now have damage.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely should. But the thing is, I guess if you can stay tucked up, you should be able to hold on to the pack. Now, making a pass might be a lot harder to do. Up at the front, there certainly doesn't seem to be hurting Samogi or Fletcher, who continue to lead side by side.
Right up 132 miles an hour at the bottom line. Smogy's still lined up on his own. Kyle Apsey up 6 positions after that craziness. Andrew Apsey is also passed him for position 6. Keep an eye on those silver chrome cars today as they look to try and cut up in their Jetta Masters machines.
A little bit of a line forming, but there's a big split there. I think that Samagi is still up on the high side. And I'm trying to figure out who those two are up with him. I think Georgi and it looks like Jurak, who are starting to gain pace.
Yeah, in fact, Jurak is trying the very, very high line up against the edge of the safety barrier, nearly scraping it. So really scrapping early on in this race, a little bit more than I think we may have expected here, as this lead pack still has 9 cars fighting in it.
And now they've got 2 solid lines, so it's going to be a matter of who can work together better between these 2 lines, because there's 5 and 4, so there's not going to be a significant difference in pace just on number of cars that are involved. It's all down to just trying to hook up with whoever you know you can hook up with and get the good push.
Already looks like a couple drivers are trying to shuffle around their lines to build up some runs maybe for some of those shoves. And those are the George Racing Team machines all lined up in a row. Just about every other team sorted out, and they're bumping and banging again. Georgi trying to give a bit of a door nearly, it seemed, to Boyette.
This sort of impatience tells me that some of these drivers have not done a lot of super speedway racing. There's kind of no need for it. We're only 5 minutes into a 30-minute race, and with as few cars as we have left in this pack, you don't need to be up at the front as much right now.
And keep in mind, that car in Georgi has significant left front damage from that first big one, and it's not going to help that there is a car up the road that is Cianfari, who used his fast repair, who they will now have to deal with as lap traffic. That car is the last car rather on the lead lap, by the way.
They're also pulling along Zabelski. I guess he must have dropped off a little bit to avoid the wreck on that second lap. But it looks like the draft is just enough that it's reeling him in tiny bit by tiny bit.
Just a touch bit. Still all shuffling around. Let's take a look on.
And that's Boyette, I think, dropping back.
I mean, this is also something you see at the super speedways and iRacing. When you feel like it's getting a little bit too dangerous, you try and pull the ejector cord, so to speak, and pull up in the old line and go to the very back of the pack. That's what he just did with all of those cars lined up. Those are 3 of the George Racing Team machines and 1 of the Valhalla SimSport machines in Berg up there. In fact, one of them just got shuffled out.
I think that was a good call from Boyette. Like I said, this is not the sort of racing that you want to see. A little contact there in the 3rd row. I think that was Apsey and Jurak that came together, but they pulled it back. Ooh, this is a lot of weaving, guys. Come on now.
And Jocelyn is really looking squirrely on the bottom line in the red car. And that's one of the tough things when it comes to the bumpy version of Daytona. Normally with the slicks, as the tires wear out, the harder it is usually is to handle the track. And these cars are really struggling to handle, it seems. In fact, they're currently running away a couple tenths quicker than this car with the draft, by the way.
Let's see if we'll get anybody else who falls back to the back. Top line is kind of distanced itself. They might be able to pull back together. It looks like something could be forming up there. I wonder if some of the swapping we're seeing from cars going up to the high side, we haven't talked a lot about it, but they are running very close together, and that's going to block off the air to the engine. So I wonder if engine heat is a concern for some people.
Yeah, that might be actually a great discussion point, because normally, that on tape, for example, etc., not kind of that option for a Jetta normally, because you, well, normally don't see them racing at the super speedways.
You can only change the fuel on this car.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you can change. You can't even change the tire pressure on this thing.
Which brings up the better question. You don't expect a pit stop today, but is there going to be enough fuel, you think, to run full out for 30 minutes straight?
These things just go forever. The diesel engine just it chugs along for as long as you
Hmm.
please. So
Yeah,
there's going to be no need for a pit stop.
that's why I thought I would ask, because of course, normally that's a factor in who wants to lead the pack. You take away that factor, we're seeing the exact example of what happens when you feel like you can make it on the gas.
Let's hop on board with some of the cars. So we can suss out here. So I love this helmet cam that we've got going on. I think this is in our second place car, third place Apsey in the silver. Who's riding second in the bottom line. There's a lot more wheel movement than I anticipated, I will say that.
Oh, and somebody got bumped up into the fence. Cars are wrecking in the back of the pack. Jurek has been launched up to space. Several other cars are up and over. And we still have 4 cars in the lead pack.
And then there were 4. So Sabelski and Berg are able to keep going. I don't know how much damage they have, but they're quite a ways behind. I think we're going to take another little replay of this incident. That's he went from a VW to a helicopter.
Oh, let's take a look at this.
This has to have been a glitch of some sort. This does not look typical. Yeah, that's definitely a glitch.
So, bye-bye race car. And now, we are down to 8 on the lead lap, by the way. And 4 of them are right here. So, we're just 10 minutes in, by the way.
Yeah, we got a ways to go. Fletcher, Kyle Apsey, Samogi, and Jocelyn are those top 4 that you see still fighting for it. And that's Samogi who is stuck out on the high side.
Now the question's going to be, can he get that to work with just himself there? And it looks like this time he's actually going to get some help. Kyle Apsey wants to get a push for the race lead.
I think this is a smart move by Apsey. He's not going to beat Fletcher just sitting behind him. So I guess at this point, with only 4 cars left up here, there's not too much risk to try and slot in front of Samogi, see if he can push you. But I don't know necessarily if Samogi is going to play ball.
Well, it looks like at the very least he's nearly right on top of the bumper. Is it enough to move the momentum? No, there's a block now to the top line. Trying to control the bubble is Ash Fletcher still, and the traffic is now within drafting range.
And this is fair game from Fletcher. He's allowed to try that. Now, it can be a little bit risky. If he tries to jump up and cover him off and he is not clear, that could turn them. And then, well, at that point, it's anybody's game, because if all 4 of them got caught up, I can't tell you who's going to win this thing.
Now the question's going to be, where does the traffic go? Because in real life, the preferred line for the traffic, stay on the bottom and just stay next to the yellow line. Sometimes in iRacing, you see drivers go up to the safer barrier. Once these cars get here, the question's going to be, how do they even approach this? Because this, by the way, still is your last car on the lead lap they're about to reel in, who is in P8.
I think it should be pretty easy to get around Gustavo, especially if they work together. And of course, as I say that, it doesn't look like they're working together. So some of them might actually get stuck on the bottom side if they use a pick. And that's Samogi, who was on the top side, is now stuck on the bottom side.
Fletcher getting the pole from Jocelyn. Also on that line is Kyle Apsey, as Kyle Apsey pushes up the track. And Samogi now tries to go underneath the yellow line. This is going to be bad. You normally can't do this. Yes, that's a purple lap. But if he tried to take that underneath the line in turn 1, that could have been the big one again.
And what's interesting about this is that the cars actually can race on the flat around turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. Of course, normally you can in the tri-oval, but these cars are just not fast enough that you need the banking. Now, it's slower, but you actually can bring it down to the flat. But I believe you'd probably get a protest from the other cars, as that is considered a no-no.
Yeah, it's actually against the sporting code when you think about it, because drivers have attempted that on the road course side. But it's 3 wide with this traffic. Up on the top still is Kyle Apsey with no drafting help. Jocelyn's trying to help Fletcher.
Oh.
Now Fletcher's getting hooked. He's upside down. And then there were two.
Pretty much because Apsey hit the wall pretty hard. I don't think he's going to be able to keep up. In fact, he's lost a lot of pace. Now, I've been wondering if Gustavo should let them through, and now he's pulling up way to the high side, so maybe he is going to just finally let them by as we watch the replay. Yeah, just spatial awareness is so critical in super speedway racing. Listen to your spotter, keep an eye on where people are, and, you know, you have to keep your head on a swivel.
Well, at least the roof of the car was on a swivel as it bounced around with significant damage. Mark Samagi is now your race leader, by the way, and Lucas Jocelyn is the air driver with a shot. Kyle Apsey, by the way, despite all that contact, is still 1.7 seconds back. So if anything was to happen with these two, it'd be Apsey to be able to try and jump up and take advantage.
And it looks like still Gustavo's going to try and hang on to it. But I was about to say that I think that there is good reason for Gustavo to stay up there. Because like I said, if these two wreck each other and he can manage to stay out of it, then he'll be back on the lead lap. And like I said, it could be anybody's game. It's hard to tell. You mentioned Kyle Apsey, who's back there, but he's damaged. Zabelski, you know, we'll have to keep an eye on Zabelski's times compared to Kyle, because I wonder if he's got a less damaged car and could be reeling him in.
In fact, Zabelski, you mentioned that, was the fastest car on the racetrack, with no drafting help at all at 108.5. These cars up at the front are running the 108.7s because just about all of them have at least some type of door damage from all the banging and from how tough it's been to grip the track. They still have to make it around, by the way, for another 14 laps to try and fight for this race win, but they are, by the way, still running away from that third place car.
Yeah, I'm looking at Kyle Apsey. He's running 109.6, 109.3, so he's well off the pace. Zabelski will run him down. At that point, if you're Kyle, just try and get in behind Brian, pick up the slipstream, and ride him to the front.
And there's now Samagi trying to go right in the middle. Jocelyn not going up there, however. So a bit of a draft breakage up there, as still Gustavo trying to stay up at the top line. Samagi now leaves the bottom right open for the taking. No, just squeezed him right to the O line.
Honestly, at this point, they really shouldn't be doing this sort of stuff, because if they take each other out, it's completely unnecessary. You've had two cars. If he gets underneath you, you really don't need to be trying to push the issue and trying to cut him off like that. Samagi would be better off just getting in behind him, waiting, and try and figure out a game to get by.
Yes, they finally have gone by the traffic. That's the bright side to bring it back to 2 wide, but still, you see how dead even these cars are in terms of speed, right on the rev limiter, as we've seen on the onboards. And the bottom side now helping Jocelyn as a bit of a bobble for Samagi as they now go back and forth again off of turn 4 this time.
Yeah, it starts falling backwards. And this is what I mean. He's never going to do it this way. He has the longer way around, so theoretically it really shouldn't allow him to win. Now, I say that, he is coming to the line before him. So if he can hold it and if he can keep the speed up, this could be a method. But like I said, I feel like it'd be better if he just pulled in behind, let himself get a run later on in the race, slingshot by, instead of trying to play this game of how close can I hold to him.
Remember Brian Zabelski, you talked about him. He is now coming in quick, only 4.3 seconds back, and has reeled in Kyle Apsey. So if this continues too as well, normally in super speedways, you fight like this too long, you lose a ton of time or don't have enough cars or have damage. Guess what? Brian Zabelski may have the cleanest car on the track and have a shot to join these cars. If this continues now, Samagi still committed to the top. Jocelyn committed on the bottom as now the 00 is up to 3rd. And take this is probably what he may say once he gets up to these cars here in the next 13 minutes with the pace he's running.
And here's the thing, they were significantly slower. It was almost 0.9 of a second slower for Jocelyn compared to Zabelski. He is catching them hand over fist. And let's see, 3.7 seconds here it looks like, or thereabouts at the line. with 12 minutes to go, so maybe about 10 to 11 laps that they'll be running. Yeah, he'll absolutely get them.
Race control has just issued a notice. All lap cars must stay high and let lapping cars through. That is now from race control after some of the fighting we've seen with the 29 machine up with the lead group. But this 00 is still 3.5 seconds back and still has that traffic to potentially deal with the next little bit.
Zabelski's still another 9/10 quicker that time by. In fact, a full second faster, I should say. They were over 109 on that lap, whereas Zabelski hit a 108. He's getting a little bit of help too, I think. I think Apsey is not only riding behind him, I think he's giving a little bit of a push, so that could help him pick up the pace even more.
Yeah, this is actually very huge because there's the concept normally in a stock car where you get front nose damage, you can still contend with the pack if you have the draft, you just can't lead the pack. You're good as a pusher. It almost seems like Kyle Apsey's in that same box where that front right damage is making it where he's slow on his own or as the lead car, but can still keep up if he's got a car in front.
As soon as I say that, it was a 108.4, so it was slightly slower, so maybe the bumping kind of jostled Brian around a little bit. So it wasn't as big of margins as we saw before, but they are still a net positive to that two-car pack ahead.
Coming to 10 laps to go estimated this time by, and the lead is still side by side. However, it has swapped different lane preferences. Samaki now wants to run the bottom up of the front group. Jocelyn is now running the top, while these two still run nose to tail with that just tiny bit of air bubble between the 00 and the 87.
Maybe Jocelyn saw what Samogi could do with the top line before and is seeing if he could try and repeat that feat. I am a bit surprised that it worked. Didn't think that really momentum would be that affected by running up top. I would have thought that the extra distance would be much more of a hindrance.
Well, technically the banking, you can use it as a ramp, right? Which carries you for more momentum down the straights. That's what in part helps with the normal stock cars on Super Speedway. It's just playing out, I think, differently than we've expected it, Joe, because normally you need to have numbers for that to work in several different types of racing here.
Yeah, and this is new territory both for the drivers and for us, so we're learning along with them. Just a heads up, Zabelski now down to 2.4 seconds.
And that's closing Stone quickly, at least half a second a lap quicker. Part with this fight, in part with these cars with a bit of damage as the lead cars. Also of note, just 5 total competitors have not used a faster pair. These two, Sabolski, Kyle Apsey, and Tomas Kanyuri, who was 39 seconds back from the race lead and about 37 seconds back of all these cars on your screen.
Watching the lap timer to see what they do this time, especially since they've been side by side for a while now. It's a 108.6, so not too terribly bad. In fact, better than some of their others, but it was a 108 flat once again for Zabelski. So now 1.8 seconds between himself. If he catches them too, now they can hold on, but again, like you said, when you have that damage, it's going to be tough to lead. And I suspect that the little bit of damage they have is enough that they're going to have a hard time getting by Brian.
Yeah, they're right in the draft now with that kinetic racing machine. And now that car knows the situation with the issue from race control, needing to get out of the way. The other lap car up the track in Kanyuri is already running the wall in preparation for all this. 1 second the gap between P3 and P1. Here we go. The pack is now closed. It's gone from 2 cars back up to 4.
He is well within the slipstream and is catching like mad. And there we go. Nice job from Gustavo. Going to stay up high and let him get involved. Now, what can Apsey do though? He's got the most damage of any of these 4, so he's kind of the most hindered of everybody. And yet, look at him hang back. I'm not sure if that's intentional or if he is in fact going to try something at the end.
Well, we didn't see the fastest lap of the race just now from Brian Zabelski once he got in the draft of all these cars. Kyle Apsey only ran a 107.6. So, seems that toe starting to affect them now that there's now the lesser damaged cars in front. But the thing is, the 00 still has to get by these two cars, and he still feels timid on this, it looks like. In fact, he's letting Kyle Apsey back to the bottom.
I think he's sizing it up. I think he's planning his moves now. He's going to drop back, watch him get back in line. Now, I suspect what you're going to see is he's going to do a couple runs, but not go completely to the front. Just kind of see, okay, how far up can I go? How far back do I have to be? See, he dropped away, and now this is going to give him that extra bit of miles per hour that he needs, but he has to clear 3 cars, so he's going to need a monstrous shot.
Looks like Apsey is thinking about a peak still a little bit. Just can't get there quite yet. Zabowski, though, is still trying to build this momentum up. He lost about a second, but likely is going to gain that time as to be expected here. Thing is, he only topped out again at 131 miles an hour, as we've seen a few times throughout this race. That's around that peak amount of momentum. It's just where that momentum comes in. So far, he's actually losing a bit of time. Finally gains it back up because there's a massive checkup at the front.
It almost looks like maybe he is intentionally holding back. He's giving them the space. I think he watched the racing earlier on and decided, well, if everybody else is going to go crazy, I'm just going to hold on to things and keep my car whole, because he still has a few laps to go, mind you. So there is no necessary need to be up with them right now, unless you're doing, like I said, of doing those reconnaissance moves.
The Jocelyn back on the outside once again, by the way. Kyle Apsey trying to shuffle him out. In fact, going up a little bit on the corner exit. There is a tiny bump right on the exit of turn 4 where if you hit it, it can shove your car up normally. It looked like Kyle Apsey may have hit that bump and is still trying to stabilize the car here.
A little more than 5 minutes to go now.
Oh, and they're still door banging each other in the corner. Kyle Apsey now taking away P2. A little bit of barginess there with the side doors again.
Impressive that Kyle's gotten himself up to second. This might be as far as he can go, though. Wonder what Jocelyn's going to do here. Is he going to try and fight back, or is he content to sit in line? He's got some time to do more moves later if he really wants.
5 minutes even on the clock this time by the stripe. Estimated 4 to go. All between these 4 cars for the race win. Zabowski's still dropping back half a second, by the way, in all of this. To still shape things out.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain that he's playing possum. And who knows? Don't forget Gustavo in there. He could help. I mean, we see that in real life in stock car racing, where if you get a car a lap down who's a teammate or a friend, they've got nothing to do but to try and disrupt things. And right now, Gustavo could push him up to the front if he decided he liked Brian enough today.
Brian is someone that does have a lot of friends on the service based on experience from what I'm seeing. Now, the question is, will these 3 have the friends they need to try and go for the push? By the way, they are no longer really reeling in the lap car too much, and Kenyeri will not be a factor by the checker flag likely.
They do have Visky in front of them.
Yeah.
Hopefully Visky will just pull himself aside, because he's not even fighting with Gustavo for position here. He really has nothing in it.
I don't even know if they're going to reach him. If they do, it'd be on the last lap, which would make things really intriguing and really tight. Again, all these cars, though, on the corner exit seem to be really checking up. Cebulski's hitting 133 on the corner exits. These cars up in the top 3 in the 129s. The 00 finally starts to take a peek.
He's got it down to 2/10, so he has closed it in. Doesn't look like he's really trying anything quite yet, though.
At the very least, he's thinking about something as he now goes up to the middle line. We've seen that work a couple times, and now Kyle Apsey's thinking about things. The thing is, with super speedway racing, you don't want to make the move too early, otherwise you're either going to have trouble or you're not going to end up winning, because another driver will then make the move too late for you to react.
Timing is everything. It really makes or breaks your super speedway race, and it looks like Zabelski knows that. I'm pretty certain Zabelski is one of the drivers with some oval experience, so I think he's putting it to good use against some of these guys.
2500 IR on ovals, by the way, with the B safety license. So yes, I've actually raced against him a couple times. Knows the awareness is here, and now we'll see Kyle Apsey get shuffled out. Jocelyn trying to take away second in the 56. 2 laps to go that time by.
Apsey should drop like a rock now that he doesn't have anybody in front of him. Shouldn't be too hard for them to pull away.
Looking like he's trying to get the squeeze, though, to Jocelyn. Maybe try and sidetrack the touch, just can't get there. Back to the bottom side. Zabelski's still about 6/10 back from all of this. As here comes the peak again for Apsey with the momentum.
A little bit of a move up. I'm not sure if that's trying to defend or what in the world Jocelyn is doing there. You can see the damage on Jocelyn's cars from this shot looking back from Samogi as well. So that gives us a good idea of what he is dealing with.
White flag this time by at the stripe expected. As now back single file. 4 cars for the chance to win the second round of this season. Question's going to be, who will they be the driver who takes it? They've been running 1 minute 8-second laps. See how this fares out. It's going to be tight, though, on the official timing. That's the main thing. There's about 1:19 minutes on the clock. As we mentioned, 1 minute and 8 seconds to get around the racetrack. They may get an air lap here. We'll have to see.
Yeah, this looks like 2 to go. Still Zabelski, he is leaving it for very late. He must feel very confident about what he can do here. If he doesn't go on this lap, he has got to go next time.
This is going to get pretty crazy again, and now they do have a bit of that draft from that lap car. Apsey again up high. Just again can't get anything to go with that damage.
Yeah, he basically has to hope for some real chaos to happen. His best bet is maybe wait for Brian to get involved and then use him as a pick or as a way to kind of just follow him through. At best, maybe get second.
Take a look on board. This is the 00. Is he too far back is again a bigger question too.
He's picking up speed. Here he goes.
As Kyle Apsey peeking out once again. Final few moments on the clock. This indeed, white flag, 10 seconds on the clock. Final lap.
Zabelski's been hanging out at about 130, 129. He's now up to 134. He is making his move for sure. But look at this. This is the fly in the ointment because Apsey keeps popping up to the second lane. If he's forced to the third lane, I'm not sure if that momentum will work well enough.
And now they have Visky right in at their doorstep. This is going to make things even more interesting. There goes Apsey. Here comes Zabelski making it 3 wide for the battle for the back spots. Down to the bottom side goes Apsey, the 00 now up to the wall.
Oh, but he's stalled out. He doesn't have the speed. He has got to get someone, and he's unfortunately not going to have either of the leaders. But now it looks like Jocelyn's going to duck up high. That'll give him a little bit of a run, but I don't know if it's enough this late in the lap.
Oh, and the lap traffic is not going quite as high as expected. To the middle line the traffic goes. Samagi may have the space. Jocelyn, one last chance. More door-to-door contact. Checker flag up in the hands as they crash behind. It's Mark Samagi taking the win. And a drag race for second behind as they spin for third.
Jocelyn just barely beat Zabelski. I don't exactly know what Visky was trying to do there unless he was trying to help a teammate or something. But like I said, he really had nothing in that fight unless he just didn't want Jocelyn to win.
Yeah, that was interesting there to say the very least. But in the end, Mark Samagi is the man who survives in the George Racing Team machine to check the checkered flag. Celebrations about to get underway as well as post-race coverage. We'll be back in just a moment. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel for the virtual Daytona International Speedway. Welcome back, everyone, to the virtual Daytona International Speedway, where it was an interesting super speedway race. Jetta machines to see who can come away with the victory in the second round of the Holler Sim Sport Jetta Master Series. It was Mark Samagi who came away with the checker flag after what was a wild final few laps and what was a big one filled first few laps of the day. Mark Samagi beat Lucas Jocelyn and Brian Sabelski for the top three positions. Kyle Lapsey finished in fourth today, with Tomas Caneri being the last driver to finish on the lead lap 57 seconds in front of the pack. Gustavo Cianfari was finished in sixth, with Bence Jurek in seventh, Andrew Apsey in eighth, Gabor Georgi and Visky rounded out your top 10 today, Joe.
Ash Fletcher, Christian Berg, and Gavin Boyett. Unfortunately, DNF today as they were not able to complete the race. It was not a fun day for them, but certainly was fun to watch.
An interesting race to say the very least. Mark is the driver who takes the checker flag. Mark Zamagi, first things first. How do you feel winning what is a unique race today to drive these type of cars in a super speedway pack?
Hello guys, thank you for the interview. Yes, it was very interesting because all the week we were testing for Daytona, but it's not like not the same. I think. Yeah, it was very hard. So I didn't think I will finish first because I'm not too good in Nova, but yeah, I don't know how to say because it was a very tough race. So and I'm a little bit tired because I had to stay in my line, and it was and I was very careful because I didn't want to push out anybody. So yeah, it was very hard.
Yeah, we talked a bit about how the suspension, you take a lot of bumping and banging and bouncing, but this is a track that also bumps and bangs and bounces you around in the first place. How difficult was it to try and stick the car around and try and stick to the yellow line, especially with how difficult the surface can be to try and handle for grip?
I think with the Jetta, so the maximum speed was 212 kilometer per hour. So I don't think the bump is very I'm comfortable in this car. I think maybe just the steering because if you're steering with this car, it's not like a racing car. It's after when you're steering, it's going a little bit more, and this is why it could be a lot of accident in here because you have to count a little bit more to going.
Mm-hmm. Overall, though, strong performance today. 17 laps led went in your direction. The next round, still to be determined the exact location, but your thoughts on the first two rounds overall of the campaign already a quarter way through?
Yes, I'm leading the championship. So because I think Gayet didn't participate to this event. I missed him because it could be a very good fight for the first place. But yeah. So there was a little very good drivers. So I was very lucky because I could go another way when was the accident in front of me. So yes, I'm waiting for the next round. I don't know where it will be, but on the I think on the next weekend I will have a real race, and it will be not meet on that. So yeah.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you go, real quick?
Yes, I want to thank for my team and for my family and for you guys.
Congratulations on the victory today, and yes, looking at things unofficially, does mark you in the points lead with the 18 points from round one and the 25 today. Congrats.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Mark Samagi coming away with the race victory today in what was a tight one. Brian Spolsky, meanwhile, standing by with Joe Peak.
Brian, it seems like you used a little bit of that oval experience today to try and get yourself back into the fray, especially after missing that big wreck. I mean, did you feel pretty confident knowing you had a clean car after avoiding that one that you were still in it?
Yeah, Joe. I kind of felt that was the case. usual oval rules around Daytona is what I was going for, which is just avoid the big crashes. Don't worry about it till you get to the end, and then try and time your run just right. And darn, I almost timed it just right. It was a good run today. I just kind of hoping to be there at the end, and made it. I was there at the end, so that's kind of the best I could hope for.
Yeah, we saw you quickly approach the group, and then suddenly you dropped back and kind of held behind them. I assume the plan was to just wait until that last lap and try to slingshot a big run past all three of them?
Yeah, as much as I could, or hope that Lucas would pop out, and then I could draft off him, and then try and slingshot around everybody at the end there. I didn't know with the way that things had been going on the racing so far. I'd seen there'd been a lot of wrecks kind of in the middle toward the front of the pack, and I was expecting things to get a little hectic toward the end there. So it was partially the slingshot maneuver and partially just trying to give myself a little bit of wiggle room in case something did happen up front and like it took out the first 3 liters that I'd have enough space just to get through that. Okay.
That makes sense. So, regardless, it seemed to work out decently well for you. You managed a podium. Do you see yourself faring as well in any of the other unique combinations they'll have this season for the Jetta?
Um, I know we got another oval track up, so I'm looking forward to that one quite a bit. Bathurst, I was running really well before I had an incident. Unfortunately, it was kind of out of my control, but that's racing. It happens. Um, I'm kind of really interested to see how this car handles on dirt. I've got a little practice in on it, and it's a little funky, but it's fun at the same time. So we'll see how that kind of. I'll probably put some more time into that, and we'll kind of see how that shakes out.
Yeah, we're hoping that we can get that in. I had a chance to try and drive, and it was quite a bit of fun, surprising fun, I found. Well, congratulations on a third, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you more this season.
So thanks, Joe.
Justin?
Thank you very much, Joe. Once again, that was what was a competitive race from Brian Spelski from the Sim Racer, Speedrunner, Minecrafter, and commentator. Now, one of the drivers involved with some of the drivers' troubles today was Kinetic Racing's Gustavo Cianfari. First things first, what happened from your perspective in what was a crazy start to this race, which seen at one point in the first 5 laps a car launched off to space?
Yeah. Hello, guys. I think it is pretty aggressive. Some moves on three wide on second lap. No need to do that. It's 30-minute race, and it's a draft race, so no need to put three wide on second lap. And uh, it's pretty frustrating being on first row on two races and being crashing on both of them. But it is what it is, and go to next round.
Before we talk about the moving on part, want to talk real quickly about trying to adapt to this type of racing with this car specifically, because some drivers talked about that aggression and the planning out the moves. How were you trying to plan things out? What was your strategy before everything, well, took a turn to where, in turn, you finished in sixth?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to be on pole, but was but a good margin seeing the other times. But I was trying to not to fight so much and stay clean until the last laps. But I was crashed on second lap.
Mhm. What was it like overall to drive this car in the pack?
Oh, I was very fast. The cars took some. I think the leaders will chase me rapidly, but it wasn't the case. And still lapping on the outside, I was as fast as them. So, but I was told to give away and stay behind them. So I did that. But I think if I was in the same lap, I could won the race because many of them were damaged, and I was surely faster. I was not full throttle on 80% of the lap.
Okay, with that, real very quick, anyone you want to thank before I let you go and focus on the next run?
Yeah, I want to thank for the organizers for their putting, for you that are showing, and I think we need some um, control the aggression, because there are so many unnecessary bumps, and race could be a lot be cleaner and more cars fighting until the end. I also like to thank Jake, who did a new paint for me. Jake is my teammate from Kinetic. He did a new paint for me, and at least I put the new paint on pole. Couldn't had the win, but sixth place is better than eighth place that I got last week. So we're going upwards.
Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, guys.
Stompel Singh and Fari coming away with the sixth place run today. With that, Joe, your thoughts on how this race fared today, because it seemed like an interesting one where aggression was high, some cars went sky high, and in the end, one driver went high up to the top of the point standings.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised to hear their reactions. Seemed pretty similar to what my assessment was during the race, in which there was some unnecessary moves. But part of this series is we're doing new combinations for the Jetta, and so I think it was sort of a bit of a day of learning for a number of people. And if they come back again, well, they'll have some new information for next time.
Absolutely. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action from the virtual Daytona International Speedway. We'd also like to thank Valhalla SimSport for organizing this series. We'd like to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for broadcast now listed up towards your screen. Additional thanks to Jude Lawn, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today in Joe and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC and the upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out the merchandise for sale at gsrc.storemvy.com, or check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Next race date is scheduled for October the 17th. Your location to be determined. Be sure to keep an eye on GSRC's social media platforms, as well as future broadcast dates, to see where things turn for round number 3 of this series. We also have many upcoming races for other series turning laps listed up on your screen as well, so be sure to check those out as well and mark them down in your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.